Hello everyone. It occurs to me that you might be new here. And I don't mean just new to the channel, I mean new to cigar smoking in general. So if you're just getting started, there is definitely a lot to learn. So if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to cigar smoking. You are taking your first steps on an amazing journey. So we're going to cover some ground on a few things you might not know yet. You're tuned in to Smokin' Revelry. Hello, my fellow revelers. As I said before, you have tuned in to Smokin' Revelry. Wherever you are watching from, thank you so much for being here. And of course, Smokin' Revelry is sponsored by Pariah Cigars and Casa Cuevas Cigars. From our casa to yours. Hello and welcome. Now, as I said in the beginning, you might be new here. New to the channel, new to cigar smoking. Now, there is a plethora of information, tips, tricks, if you want to call them that, and other types of information revolving around cigars that I have to share with you. Knowledge that has been acquired over a number of years. To give you a very, very quick, too long didn't read background, I started smoking cigars when I was 19 years old, back when it was legal to smoke or buy tobacco products when you were 18, and I've been enjoying them pretty much ever since. And I was very infrequent for a long time. It's only been for the past few years that I have been enjoying cigars on the regular. My palate's developed. I have learned a number of things regarding cigars, cigar etiquette. We're going to touch on the etiquette part today. Now, I kind of touched on etiquette in the last video, although that's not really related to what I'm going to talk about in this video and possibly future videos, but this has more to do with you, the cigar smoker, and what you do with your cigar from beginning to end. Now, obviously that involves anything and everything from cutting and lighting your cigar to, what you might be noticing while you're smoking, toasting it, all of that kind of stuff. Not necessarily in that order, because that's definitely out of order of what you do when you are starting to enjoy your cigar. But I'm more or less gonna just jump straight to the end, in a manner of speaking. But as we go into the subject that I want to touch on today, I'm going to tell you a little story. Now, I don't remember specifically when this happened or what year it was. I'm pretty sure I was at my dad's house because, as I mentioned before, my dad is the one who got me into cigars, and I usually tend to smoke with him. Now, this was years ago. Obviously, I have learned from my mistakes, simply because what I did annoyed/infuriated my father as we were smoking cigars together. And, looking back, it's kind of a cringy moment. But then again, at the time, I didn't know better. And you might not know better, which is why I'm telling you the story. Pure and simple, my dad and I were doing what we usually do when we hang out, and it's just him and I. We're out on his patio, and we are lighting up and smoking some cigars, and we're usually watching like a movie, or if it happens to be a Sunday, watching the football game or whatever sporting event happens to be on. Me personally, I don't really watch sports, care for sports. You can, judge me if you like. I really don't care. I'm just not into watching sports that much. We're sitting there shooting the shit, talking about whatever, smoking our cigars, probably having a drink of some kind. But at one point, my cigar was pretty much done. So what do? I proceed to take my, what remains of my cigar, held it over the ashtray next to me, lowered it in, and began to kind of put it out by just pressing it into the bottom of the ashtray. At which time my dad says, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "Putting out my cigar." And then my dad says, "Why?" And I said, maybe something along the lines of, "Why not?" My dad then proceeded to tell me that you never, ever put out your cigar. Now, you may be like I was at that time, which was confused as hell, because don't you want to put out your cigar? It's lit, it's smoking. Don't you want to kind of, you know, stamp it out a little bit so that way it doesn't smoke anymore and it just, you're done. So why would, you know, why not? That was when my dad proceeded to lay down this simple knowledge on me, which is cigars are not like cigarettes. Not that he needed to tell me that, but in this instance, he kind of did. You see people putting cigarettes out all the time. You see them like just kind of, you know, pushing them into the ashtray or whatever surface that they seem to find, you know, is okay to do that on, or they drop them on the ground and they stamp them out and stuff like that. I mean, they're little teeny tiny cancer sticky, you know, genetically modified tobacco thingies. You know, so obviously they're quite a bit different, whereas a cigar is, you know, a lot more than that, and it is a lot better for you than that, but we're not going to get into that. Now, where it's considered polite to put out a cigarette just because, I mean, cigarettes have a smell all their own. Not everybody likes it. It doesn't bother me that much, but putting it out kind of just keeps that smell from, you know, perpetuating or lingering in the atmosphere. I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't smoke cigarettes, never have, and, you know, when I smell them, and if you put them out, it probably wouldn't matter because I'm still going to smell it. My point is, not much of anything happens when you put it a cigarette. You can stamp it out, you can put it, you know, kind of hisses and smokes, and then after that, it just is out. It's done. It's over. Cigars, on the other hand, do not go out in the same way. One, I mean, obviously they're much bigger and they're burning a lot slower, and there's a lot more going on in a cigar than there is a cigarette. They're obviously much more complex and still better for you. But what I didn't notice until it was pointed out to me after putting my cigar out in the ashtray was that there was this nasty billowing smoke that was coming up from the nub of the cigar that I had just smushed into the ashtray. And unlike the aroma of a cigar while you're smoking it and while it's just kind of slowly burning while you're holding it, the aroma, or actually I couldn't call it an aroma, it was more of an odor that came up from the nub of the cigar that I had just, you know, obliterated. It was not so pleasant. It wasn't nearly as pleasant as, you know, like this cigar is right now as it's burning, and it's got a wonderful aroma. Yeah, this was gross. And again, like billowing gross smoke just kind of coming in. And more to the point, I mean, cigars should die with dignity. I know that sounds funny because, I mean, it's a cigar. It doesn't really have feelings or anything like that, but at the same time, cigars should still go out with dignity. And yes, that was a pun, more or less. Wasn't intentional, but it's a pun. Go out, you know, die. Cigars go out because they stop burning. And I'm going to stop even trying to explain that anymore, but you get what I'm saying. And the idea is you take the nub of your cigar, however far down you're able to smoke it, you drop it in the ashtray, and you leave it to burn. Let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. Until it burns no more. Now, the cigar, depending on what cigar you're smoking, like right now I'm smoking a Rocky Patel Vintage 1979. So far, I haven't had to relight this cigar. Some cigars, you really never have to relight them. There are other cigars that go out pretty quick if you leave them too long. I'm not sure what makes the difference overall, but I have noticed there are certain cigars that will stay burning for quite a while, even if you leave them for a minute or two or even a few minutes. And then there's other cigars where if you leave it for more than a minute or two, they're out and you got to relight it. You know, sometimes it can be annoying, but honestly, for the most part, I don't care too much. I mean, I'm going to smoke it, so I'm going to relight it so I can finish smoking it. The point being, cigars will go out on their own with no help from you nor I. It doesn't need our help to go out. It doesn't need our help to stop burning. You leave it, you let it sit, nature will take its course. Inside of an ashtray, there's not going to be much oxygen getting to the cigar. You're not puffing on it anymore. And, you know, eventually it's going to stop burning. Quietly, naturally, with no nasty odor coming up from the ashtray. It is simply going to go out and add itself to the collection of cigar corpses, remains that are in the ashtray, depending on how much you smoke on the regular or how many you smoked that day. Just drop it in. Just drop it in and let it die. A cigar will burn itself out naturally. You don't have to do a damn thing. Just leave it be. Now you might say, what if I'm somewhere where there is not an ashtray available? What if I'm somewhere like maybe I'm kind of walking on some sort of trail or road, you know, I'm going for a walk and decide to have a cigar with me, or I'm at some kind of place where there's really nowhere to, you know, put the cigar. I don't want to throw it into a trash can, especially if there is a trash can liner in there. I mean, I'm sure burning plastic would not be pleasant for anyone and all that kind of stuff. All I can say is try to find a spot where you can set down the remains of your cigar when you're finished. I mean, if it's a place where, you know, there's dirt and soil present, cigars are biodegradable, maybe it's tacky, maybe it's littering, so maybe don't do this, but, you know, if there is a place where you can get away with that, or set it somewhere and let it burn out on its own, or, you know, obviously if there is a metal trash receptacle, that's perfectly acceptable. Just make sure there's not any really overly dry paper goods in there, so you know it doesn't turn into a you know, dumpster fire. Or maybe you're camping or something like that and there's no trash cans available, and obviously you don't want to just chuck it into the forest. Again, there is a possibility for a fire to be set. If you're smoking out in nature and you're camping and stuff like that, my recommendation would be to, you know, kind of dig a small hole with, like, you know, the heel of your shoe or something like that, you know, deep enough for you to kind of drop your the nub of your cigar in, and then just put the dirt over it. That'll completely snuff it out, because there will be no oxygen at all to get to the nub and continue burning. It'll just be completely done. So anyways, point being, don't stamp it out. Don't, you know, do that thing that people do with, like, their cigarettes or their joints or what the fuck ever. But you know, don't put the cigar out. Let it burn until it burns no more, and that's it. You don't need to do anything else. You just either sit back, relax, maybe light up another cigar, or pour yourself a drink. Whatever you're doing in the moment, just make sure that when you're finished with your cigar, drop it in the ashtray or wherever else you can drop it that is acceptable. Let it burn out on its own. Because if you're like at someone's house, or especially if you're in a cigar lounge and you're that one person who decides to stamp out their cigar in the ashtray, I mean, for one, it's going to be hard not to notice the nasty smell coming out of your, you know, desecrated cigar, and people are going to notice. They're probably not going to appreciate it very much, so just leave it. Drop it in there. Leave it. Don't touch it. Don't do nothing. You leave it to burn. Burn, baby, burn. So if you are in fact new here or new to cigar smoking, I hope you found this information helpful. I hope I made it entertaining as well as educational, and that you will come back and watch more videos where I tell you a little bit more of, you know, cigar etiquette, how to do certain things to get more enjoyment out of your cigar. I am going to try and fit all the knowledge I can into future installments, so I really do hope that you'll stick around. But that is it for this video, guys. Again, hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. Please hit the like button, just so that way I know you liked it. Helps the video in the algorithm as well, gets more people to see it and stuff like that. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. I put out a new video every week, sometimes a couple if I'm able, but also drop a comment down below if you know, you found this interesting, or if you have a story of your own where somebody did what I was talking about and how it did not go over well, or anything you guys want to talk about cigar related or not. Just drop a comment. Keep it civilized, keep it respectful. Let's have a good time. But that's it from me, my fellow revelers. I hope you guys are engaging in all kinds of revelry, whether you are smoking, drinking, spending time with family or friends. I really do hope you guys are getting on very well, staying healthy, staying happy, keeping it smoky as always. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. I will see you guys next time.